Hi, I'm Amy Hines from Retail NZ. Welcome to How to Retail Building Resilience Edition. We're here at the Warehouse Group to talk business continuity planning. It might surprise you with 5 stores in a national footprint. They keep it pretty simple, focusing on values, key actions, and enabling their team to ensure business continuity planning happens.
Hi, Gaylen and Jacob. Thanks for joining us on behalf of the Warehouse Group to talk about your tips, tricks, and the ways you can approach business continuity planning, or BCP.
The term BCP gets thrown around lots. What does that term mean to the Warehouse Group?
Yeah, and BCP and the acronym can actually be quite daunting, but really what it is a proactive business plan. And it helps us to consider what are those threats or weaknesses that we might have as we're leading into a crisis or into an event. So for us, we put a continuity plan together, and this allows us to be really quick and effective when supporting our teams, the business, the community, as well as our customers in a crisis.
Tell us about the process you went through to identify risks, vulnerabilities to the business, and where did you start?
Yeah, so interesting, it's actually just getting people in a room and thinking about what are those overarching goals that you're wanting to achieve to make sure that your business can continue in a crisis. And so for us, we determined that to be protecting our staff and making sure that our staff were front of mind for us as our people. It was also then thinking about how do we protect our reputation and our customers. What was the financial impact on our business, and then thinking about how are we going to ensure that our business operations continue. So it was really simple, and we didn't have to overthink it then.
Can you give us an overview of the key elements of your current business continuity plan? How does it address potential disruptions to your business operations?
So the way we went about it, once we had identified those key disruptions, we then sat down and said, well, who needs to know about this? And so we got our stakeholders, we did what we called a business impact analysis, but really what it did was think about what was our current capability with continuation and what were the areas that we had to prioritize or improve on. And so top of mind things for us was how do we face into any loss, and what would that event, how would it disrupt our business? What would be the potential impact to our customer, to our people and our reputation? Also looking at things like what are our existing programs that we have in place, and what are our existing strategies that we have to recover really quickly?
Do you have a regular review process in place for the business continuity plans to ensure its effectiveness?
Absolutely. So we try and keep it really simple. And as we review our program, we run scenarios with our teams, and that might be really simple things like one of our stores' electricity goes out. How are we going to manage that? What does that escalation point look like? To serving somebody when we have an Auckland flood or through a cyclone, or even a pandemic. So it depends on the scale, but we practice and we throw it into the room and really work through to see that, we've got what works well and doesn't work well and how we can improve continuously.
How do you measure the effectiveness of your business continuity plan, and what metrics do you use to monitor its success?
Yeah, so we also try and keep that really simple because every situation is going to be different. But one of the things that we would look at is how quickly we are reacting. Do we have the necessary tools in place to be able to prevent things from happening or occurring again? So, really simply going back to looking at things like what went well and what didn't. And then taking the things that didn't work well and going, how could we improve on this so if we had a similar situation in the future that we'd be able to react quickly.
A BCP can be overwhelming. What are your 3 key tips that you would give someone brand new to BCP?
So Jacob.
So it can be overwhelming. I think understanding the immediate goals that your BCP is trying to solve is really important. And then also understanding what the immediate priorities are when you need to use your business continuity plan. So obviously like impact to revenue, impact to operation. And then also just making sure that your stakeholders are aware of what your BCP plan is, but also included in what the BCP plan looks like. So, using your stakeholders to help plan, prep, simulate, that's all real helpful.
What lessons have you learned from previous disruptions or crises, and how have you incorporated those lessons into your business continuity plans?
Yeah, so we've learned that having a really clear plan is important, and actually being really clear on how we respond is critical. And then also ensuring that our stakeholders are available to support on implementing or like kicking us off on that plan is really important. And then also preparing for the unexpected. So making sure that we're preparing for things that might be really unlikely to happen, but ensuring that we've got a plan for those is really important.
What is your key focus when it comes to your employees in the BCP?
Yeah, that one's an easy one. It's actually just making sure that we protect our team and protect our business.
Yeah, absolutely. If we consider things like how we communicate with our team, how we show up for our team, how we respond really quickly to questions that they might have for us and feedback that they're feeding for us, looking after their well-being and how we show up for them, through a crisis. Recently, as we talk about Auckland, the floods and the cyclone, making sure that we were present for our team, we listened to them and responded really quickly was important for us.
How do you communicate with your team members, your community, and your stakeholders when it comes to an emergency situation?
Yeah, so we've got some really good internal communication channels that we use to communicate to team members across stores and distribution centres, but mainly ensuring that we're really clear on who that message is coming from. So there might be the need for that message to come from an exec team member, sort of human resources, payroll, depending on what the situation is, the operations team. So the first thing we do is make sure that we're clear on who's sort of fronting the message and to who. And then in terms of customers and external messages, we've got ways to make sure that our customer care teams are briefed, making sure that our social media is used, electronic mail is used, but the main thing we try and do for our business is ensure that we're giving our team timely and regular updates, and we're giving them all the information that we know as soon as we know it, so checking in regularly, and also making sure that our people leaders on the ground are well informed to answer any team questions. From a customer perspective, just making sure that anything that we can tell our customers, whether our stores are trading, what our ability is to support the community, making sure that they're kept really well up to date in their normal channels, so our website, our social media pages, really.
Are there any measures you can take to ensure that your critical business processes and operations can continue in the event of a natural disaster, cyber attack, or other unforeseen event? Yeah,
so the key thing for us is that we practice. So we practice regularly. We have simulations around scenarios, and the team come together to make sure that in any scenario we sort of know what we're dealing with and what our first steps are. A really good example of that is our BCP supported us through the Auckland flooding. So closing stores, opening stores, that was really by the textbook, and COVID really wasn't by the textbook. So making sure that the team that are focusing on the business continuity plan are really aware of when to follow the plan, but also when we might need to come together as an incident assessment team and really bounce ideas off each other to deal with those sort of unplanned or unforeseen events. So the key summary is you want the BCP to be really fresh in your mind when you need to use it. You don't want to have to be looking for documentation or searching through files to find it. You want it to come really naturally, and we find the best way is to practice.
Yeah, and I suppose three key elements for us is really thinking about how we manage that incident and ensuring that we're giving our team stability. So who do they contact in a crisis? How do they escalate it up? If that person isn't available, who's the second person that they need to be contacting? So we practice that with our team, so it's really natural for them. So it's just thinking about those key elements as we're thinking about managing that crisis. Then we go into having a look at how we actually do that recovery and getting operations back to normal. So, we work through different strategies. We've got templates for the teams that they can work through. So as we practice various things, we build out those templates and share that with the team. And then what are those steps that we do when we're returning back to business as normal? So those are the three main elements that we try and work through as we break it down.
Yeah, we're not afraid to keep it simple either. We've got heaps of technology that we can use, but the escalation chart that Gaylen was referring to is simply a poster across our team rooms, and we update that regularly. The templates that we use, some of them are made on the fly and some of them are, bounced off each other. So it's okay to be building in the moment. Building the plan as we fly is a term that we use quite often in crisis. So, great to have a business continuity plan that you're practicing, but also don't be afraid to iterate and learn and build as you go in the middle of an event, with the up-to-date facts.
Yeah.
Did you get employees' input into the processes? What level of engagement did you get? And what was the feedback you received?
Yeah, so we often, as through our simulations in stores, we often get feedback from the team to go, does what we do work? We're lucky or unlucky enough to have been through a few of these here. So getting our team to regularly feedback is something that we're always open to. We also do spend a bit of time after the event on the ground with the team to do a proper review to make sure that our team really understood what was expected of them through the crisis, whether it was following the BCP or not. We also make sure that they get to build in and feed in for things that don't work. So we're really open and honest that we're not going to get it right every time. So making sure that we take their feedback and really do a deep dive, a retrospective almost on what we did and how we did it and did that suit them. Sometimes the team have the better ideas and actually what they've done outside of the plan works better. So, adopting that as process works for us. They're the experts on the ground. They know.
Thanks, Gaylen and Jacob, for joining us today. I'm sure that retailers will appreciate the tips, tricks, and ideas you've shared around business continuity planning.
Cool, thanks for having us.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.